Hello. This week, I'm finally going to get to start putting together my Canadian army, which I've been really looking forward to. Obviously, the fact that it's the British and Canadian. I have built some of these before, but I want to try and make my Canadian army distinctly Canadian. I don't really know why they've not got, on the app for making armies. I think Canada really should have their own now. Um, and put a bit more detail into the way they ran their army and the units. Probably split, I think maybe even split away from just being the UK to being, say, Canada and the Commonwealth, and have two separate. But anyway, that's just my opinion. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to build this fairly loosely in case any new things come out when they do release the British and Canadian updated book. So I'm just going to look at some basic rifle squads, and then a few leaders for some of the other squads initially. And what I am going to do is I'm going to put the vehicles to one side for now, because I shall build them up as a separate entity, because I've got a few vehicles waiting. I've got two of these that I need to build up. I've still got the Bedford QLT troop transport, and I think I'm going to switch that now to being with the British Army. But this that I originally had when I was building for Arnhem, I actually used it as a British one. So I'm going to try and, repaint the figure and make this Canadian, because it is more of a Canadian vehicle. But that'll be when I tackle the vehicles. But as I say, I'm going to keep them to one side for now. So this Churchill tank I shall make up later, and also the little Bren carrier. I shall do that at the same time. One thing I probably will do when it comes to painting, which I'm not doing yet, I will dig out all the figures from these vehicles and get them painted up at the same time. So basically what I'm turning my attention to at the moment is going to be the basic sprues, the anti-tank gun, and the MMG, and the mortar. Right. Oh, and of course the other thing that I'm going to be building into this is the Can He Take It Anymore Captain James Doohan, who served at D-Day, Scotty from Star Trek. So I'm going to build him up, build him up, he's built up, but I'm going to include him in my army. Right, let me get myself sorted out and we'll start clipping some off and looking at the rifle squad. Right, so alongside the box that I've got, the starter army, I've also got a whole load of sprues left over from when I built it up for the British. So obviously I want to use up bits from this that didn't get used, bodies, arms and weapons. But I've also got, the early Warlord British troops. The ones back in the days when you had to put the weapons into the hand. They didn't just come moulded on. Well, rather than waste these, I'm going to try and filter these into there. So basically, I've built up a kneeling figure from the early version, but I'm going to use some of the limbs and bits and bobs from the newer kit to blend it in. So with him being this one, I'm building up a Bren team, light machine gunner. So obviously his loader has got to have a rifle. So I'm just going to go for a straightforward shoulder slung rifle. There we go. But now for the other arm, I want him to be handing over a Bren round. So what I did is, I don't know whether you can see that very well, but I cut that off of a spare gun, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this hand off of an early set, because it's got an open hand and he can hold that and be passing it to him, but I'm going to cut the hand off and put it onto this modern arm so it matches in with the other arm. So let's just nip that off. Let's just tidy up the arm a little bit. Right, and then I'm going to take this hand off of this earlier version. We'll glue that hand on. Think about how I want it to be holding it. So if that's going to be fixed to his shoulder like that, I want the hand to be like that. So that's looking like that now. I'm just going to let that dry a little bit before I put the ammo into his arm. Right, so we're going to switch to the gunner now. Right, I should think the other one's hand's dried now, so I can look at putting that in place. Right. Let's put that round in his hand. look. You see that? Right, so all they need now is their heads, and then we can start looking at putting some kit on their back. Again, I'm going to use up these old heads. Why not? Make sure he's facing the right way. I need to clean up this helmet. Right, let's get his helmet on. Right, I'm going to get him on his base, and then we'll do the other one. So that's him. Right, we'll just get him on his base as well. See how the work stood together, because I've tried to keep him on that side of it, up to that side of his base, and him to this side, so they come together as a team. I just don't want them on the same base. Perfect. So there they are. And that's my light machine gun team for my first squad. And I've barely touched my first soldier from the main box. It makes me happy anyway. I love using these bits up. Right, I'm going to crack on now and get a few of the straightforward ones done, and then I'll bring you back. So I've pieced together the rifle platoon now. A couple of things to say about it. One, I managed to actually filter into that 7 of my early Warlord British infantry from 2010. obviously they're not as detailed. Obviously you have to put the weapons into their hands, which makes it a little bit more fiddly, which is why it took a little while to get these together. But they have blended in brilliantly. I'm really pleased with how they've turned out. This one, for example, I've used the arms and hands from the newer set, but the body from the older set, and he's throwing a grenade. I've got a similar one in the other squad. Again, a similar pose. All they're waiting for is their backpacks. Most of them have put the backpacks on now, so these will probably be the last couple. But they're actually, I've got them as my Bren carrier. He's an old style British soldier, but then I've kitted him up with the newer style and newer helmet and new head. So it's worked out quite well, and it's allowed me to use up some, quite frankly, that have, sat there forever. They're all gone now, so it's not something I'll have to bother with again. The other thing to say about this rifle squad is, as you know, I've gone with the James Scotty Doohan as my squad leader on this, but he is a sand base. Clearly, I can't really pass off this beach obstacle for any inland work. So basically, what I've decided to do is I'm going to have him if he's leading on the beach during D-Day. But then what I've done is I've created an alternative leader for when they've moved off the beach. So that way, I've got both options covered, and I've found a way to weave Doohan into it. So that's my rifle squad. So I've just got a couple of backpacks and stuff to finish them off, and then they're done. So the next thing I'm going to be starting on, I'm going to have an engineer squad. Now, I hadn't originally thought about doing this, but I came across these. It's a British Army flamethrower and combat engineers. Now, initially, I think I bought these for the British Army when I was going to build it. Clearly forgot them in the pile that was waiting to be done. So, the British Army's loss is going to be my Canadian Army's gain. So I'm now going to build a couple of squads of engineers to go alongside these. And what I've also done, back when I built the American Rangers, I found a supplier who produced these Bangalores, with just the hands holding it. So, to dress them up as engineers, obviously in this pack, there's one with a minesweeper, so he's ideal. I think there's a couple, I don't know whether they've got charges or I've not got them out of the pack yet. So I'll have one of each of those in each squad, and one of each of these Bangalores in each squad, and basically dress them up as my engineer squad. So that's what I'm going to be starting next. So in the meanwhile, I'm just going to finish off the kit bags for these. I'll do that off camera. And then when I'm about to start the engineers, I'll bring you back to see a couple of these being put together. The only other thing to say about my rifle squad is I may, at a later stage, add a sniper team or a medic team. I have I've had to order a couple of extra sprues to finish this off, even with using the old ones. But I'm leaving that for now, and I'm going to work my way through the platoons and then see what I've got left over, and then make a decision which ones need a top up. Right, I'll bring you back soon. Right, so I'm about to start putting my engineers together now. And I've been doing a bit of reading around the subject. And I think what I'm going to base these, the rifle, well, the whole outfit really, but particularly the rifle platoon, on the Royal Winnipeg Rifles, because they had attached to them the Royal Canadian Engineers. So that would make quite a good way of pulling these two together and then building up from that onto some of the other units that were involved. So these are going to be my Winnipeg Rifles, and these are going to be my Royal Canadian Engineers now. I think that's just about gripped it. What I might try and do is lean that on something while it's drying. Right, so let me get the rest of these based up, and then I need to start thinking about making some duplicates for the other squad and utilising some of the plastic sprue figures. So the first thing I want to do is cut some wire, because I'm going to make myself up another minesweeper. So basically I've took the measurement from this one, and then I'm using some green stuff to make up the actual parts of it. I mean, I'm not the best moulder in the world, but I'm looking to get a reasonable, look of a minesweeper. So now I've got to do some kit bashing again and change the hands around. So I managed to get it into his hand, took a hand from another arm, and he's turned out pretty good. The only thing is, the metal one that I got is so fragile because you have to glue it on. So in the end I decided to take it off and make another wire one for stability. And he looks a lot better for it. I just had to drill through him in the right position, and it's come out okay. So I'm pretty pleased with that. I'm glad I've done it because it was so fragile. So now I'm making up some of the plastic soldiers and just adding a bit of kit to make them look more like engineers, really. So they blend in as a team. As I say, there's quite a bit of kit bashing involved in this bit, but it's worth it. I've used a little bit of the green stuff that's over there to make a charge for this one to carry. As you can see, it can be a bit of a slow old process, but it's worth it to achieve the look you're looking for. And here you can see that I've managed to stick the Bangalores on as well. And as for this other figure that came in that set, I've decided to make him a leader, so I'm snipping off his water bottle and I'm going to put him a pistol holster on there so he can actually be the leader of the squad. And then I've got to make up some others to go with it, obviously. So, a bit more kit bashing. But as I say, it's worth it because you get the look that you're after. So I'm putting some binoculars on this one, but I've decided to take the strap off so I can get more flexibility. And that's him complete. So the next thing is just to carry on adding engineer type kit, and then we're nearly there. Right, so that's the engineer platoon complete. And to be honest, I've been having some thoughts really of really changing things up a bit for the Canadian Army, because I don't think the Canadians really got enough appreciation for what they did on Juno. And they played such a big part, which is why I grumbled a little bit about them, potentially having their own book. Because I think they're a really overlooked, important force on D-Day. And what I'm thinking now is of whether to develop this into a bigger army than I first thought. And I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that these that I've built for my first rifle platoon, I think I'm going to use them as the Royal Winnipeg rifles. Now, attached to them on Juno in the Mike sector was the Canadian Scottish Regiment. Now, the fact that they're connected to them, I could kind of cover that by having perhaps 8-man squads instead of the 10-man squads. But that would mean having another rifle platoon. I'm sure I haven't got the men for that at the moment, but I'm wondering whether it'd be worth me developing that. Because then if I had the Royal Winnipegs and the Canadian Scottish Regiment, the engineers could represent the Royal Canadian Engineers. The heavy weapon platoon could represent Canadian 3rd Infantry. And when I come to build the 7-pounder for making up my artillery platoon, they could represent the Royal Canadian Artillery. And thinking about that, I could probably use, because obviously James Doohan that I've got here was artillery based, so I could use him for my platoon leader, if you like, for the artillery section instead of this one. Again, I've got the same issue of once they get off the beach, I'd have to have a replacement one, but that could be dealt with later. So he could now become the artillery leader. So it's a big ask because, like I say, I haven't got enough men in it. It'll probably make it, well, it's going to be a big army. Because then I've still got the potential, because obviously the other thing that came in this starter box is the Churchill tank, and I've got a Bren carrier. But then again, I've got other vehicles that I'm going to allocate to the Canadians as well. So certainly there's going to be an armoured platoon as well. So we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 platoons for my Canadian Army, which is bigger than the British that I've got, but I can boost them up later. But for now, that's the way I'm thinking. Anyway, you know, from the point of view of this build, the next thing I'm going to do is turn my attention to building the heavy weapon team. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take these out of the bags. This is my Vickers MMG and my mortar team. So I'll take them out and I'll just clip all the flash off, and then I'll bring you back and we'll put those together. Right, so let's put this Vickers together. I've clipped off all the flash. I'm sure there's going to be a few other little adjustments to make. It would be nice if I'd got a better super glue left rather than this one, but it's the one I'm going to go with. First thing I'm going to do is put the gunner's head in place. There we go. He's got his hands a little bit wide apart for my liking, but We'll squeeze that up when we get the gun in position. Right, let's just get things positioned on here first, because we need to make sure wherever we put them we've got the room. So I think about there is going to be the right. That gives room for him, doesn't it? Not quite, no. So let's move that over. Sorry about the mumbling to myself. Yeah, I think that'll be about right. So I'm going to glue that down in that position. Before it sets, I'll just double check that I've got it right. He's going to go there or thereabouts. You can go there. A bit further forward then. That'll do. Right. Next thing I'm going to do is put the gun in place. Hang on. Before we do that, I'm going to put the tube into the water can that feeds the gun. We can put the gun in place and a little bit where the hose is going in. Right, so that goes there. So make sure that I get the hose in the right place as well. It's a little bit fiddly, but that's it in place. I don't know whether you can see that. I'll move it too much because it's not dry, obviously. I'd have been happier to have that fast drying spray to put on this, but it's in place. So the next thing is to get the actual gunner in place. And the first thing is I need to lower his hands a little bit. Let's come up from underneath, that's it. Perfect. Right, next one. We're getting towards the end of the tricky ones now though, so now it's just a matter of manipulating this chap's the belt to make sure I'm getting it in the right place. Right, let me get the last figure on now. Thankfully he's a lot easier. Right, So there they are, finally. I wanted them set well back because I might put something up here, I'm not sure yet. And I've given myself a bit of painting pleasure by keeping a bit of a distance between them, which will make it easier when I do come to paint it. These sights are straight. Yeah. Right, so that's my Vickers team done. Right. I'm going to get the mortar team put together now, and then I'll bring you back. So a quick update on where I'm at now. This group of 3 are not a platoon leader group. These are, I've got a forward observer and I've put 2 men with him. Whether I'll always use him with 2 men or not, I don't know. But for now, I'm going to give him 2 men. The leaders that were on this side, I've now put over ready for the artillery group, because obviously I've got Duan in that group, you know, this one. And an alternative for when they're not on the beach as well. So that's moved over to there. What I'm building next on here will be a Piat team and a sniper team. So this double rifle unit, double squad rifle unit, is going to have 3 optional extras. It's going to have the forward observer, a sniper team, and a Piat team. And then these ones that you see me that I've cut out here, they're going to be the new platoon leaders for that section. And then just in front of me, you can barely see it, it's off camera, I've got the actual sniper team and Piat team cut out. I've just got to trim them before I can start building them. So they'll be going over into there to make up that 2 teams. And these ones that I've cut out when I've trimmed them will be the leaders. And at the moment, until the extra sprues come, and I have ordered an extra couple now. So this is going to be, you know, a big Canadian army. But I think it's justified. I'm looking forward to putting this together. Then the other thing that I've got to build is the actual artillery gun. And I noticed on the sprue, although they're not actually in operation, there is a light mortar folded up being carried and the weapons for it. So I could actually put a mobile light mortar team, which I could possibly add into the heavy weapon team. I don't know. I'll have a look into that. But then obviously the rest of them will be the Scottish Canadians. And as I said, I'm going to have 2 8-man squads and then their leadership. But that's when the other sprues come. So that's where I'm at. So I've got to clip these and clip these and then get these built up. And then hopefully by then the other sprues will have arrived. Right, so let's have a look at this sniper. Now, from this weapon sprue, the old one, I've found a sniper rifle. It's not brilliantly moulded, but to make it easy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to splice the telescopic part off of that rifle and add it to this one. So what I need to do is just prepare it a little bit first. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lightly file the top of this one. That's fine. We can tidy that up in a bit. Right. I wish I'd got a new blade for my little craft knife, but appear to be out at the minute, but I'm hoping it's going to be sharp enough to get in and cut this. Right. Wanted to cut it like that because I didn't want it to go springing off into the land of the workshop floor where things are never found again. That's got the sights on it. As I say, it's not particularly well moulded, but nevertheless, cutting those little bits out has given it a bit of dimension, and it'll certainly be good enough once it's painted up. So we'll let that dry while we build up the rest of the figure. A bit more glue on the top. If I bring that up, you can see now that he's looking down his sights. Right, so it's time to get working on my artillery piece. So I've just cleaned up all the flash first, and here you can see that I've attached the wheels. Just make sure they're square. And now the back supports and the first of the shields. Getting this second one in place was a little bit tricky, but it's worth taking your time with it, and then fitting the actual gun and sight parts onto it as well. So now it's time for me to start getting the figures in place. Just try and get them all lined up, really. I've laid it out pretty similar to, you know, the Warlord illustration of it. And I think it looks the part. I've tried to offset it as well on the base. I didn't want it to be just facing straight down the centre. So my additional sprues turned up, and managed to complete everything. I did cut down my leaders to just having one-man support to help, you know, to get all my Canadian Scottish complete. So I'll just run you through them all again now. The Winnipeg's as a rifle platoon. I've got a backup rifle platoon from the Canadian Scottish. Canadian Engineers, we've got a squad of those. And heavy weapon platoon. Anti-tank platoon. And then, as I say, there'll be an armoured platoon, but that's to be added to. And then you've got all the little extras. But anyway, what I'll do now is I'll take a series of photographs and I'll just talk you through what each of them are and we'll wrap this one up. So in my Winnipeg rifle platoon, I've cut down all the optional extras into two-man teams. So I've got my observation, sniper and PIAT team. And in my Scottish Canadians, I've got them as 8-man squad. And I've also got a little light mortar with them, and then their leader team. Then the engineers, they're the ones that took the most chopping and changing, but I've built two 8-man squads, and then I've got this separate flamethrower team, and then finally their leadership team, which is where I use the additional metal figure. And I've got my heavy weapon platoon, so I've got my Vickers and medium mortar, and I've also built a spotter for my medium mortar now as well. And then their leadership team. And then finally the anti-tank artillery section. And that's where I've got Duan and an additional leader, so I can switch them about. So hopefully that's given you an illustration of how I, put my armies together. As you can see, it's a bit fluid. I do chop and change as I'm going along. But I hope you've managed to glean something from it. I hope you found it interesting. As usual, if you have, please consider giving me a thumbs up. Or even subscribing. And as I've said before, please feel free to, drop any comments below. I always answer. Anyway, I've rambled enough. And as usual, it's another one of my long videos. I'm sorry for that. So I'll sign off now, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.